David Allen, an expert, an authority, a master, a guru on getting things done. David, you're a very popular figure in the tech world. You have, I think, 1.3 million Twitter followers. I know that Robert Scoble and Guy Kawasaki are followers of your method. What is your view about the way in which modern technology has helped us get things done, or for that matter, of course, hindered getting things done?
Well, technology is, one of those, don't shoot the messenger and don't shoot the methodology. Technology really is just speed things up. So it can speed up how fast and how well you get things done, or it can speed up how out of control you let yourself get. So it's neutral itself. It's how you use that technology. Ultimately, people say, what's new with all the technology and gear and equipment and so forth and multitasking? And I say, look, there's nothing new except how frequently it's new. See, while you and I are talking and while people are listening and watching to this, stuff is piling up in their world. Probably in the last 72 hours, you and I have gotten more change producing and project creating and priority shifting inputs than our parents got in a month, some of them in a year. So what's new is how much technology has allowed new, potentially meaningful things to come into your world. In other words, if you're sitting here and if you're listening to this and while you're listening, you've got 30 emails that are piling up. And some of it's spam, but 3 of them are from people that you really care about. You can't see exactly what's in there, but it might be important to you. And some part of you subliminally knows that. And any one of those emails could potentially shift what you think you ought to do this afternoon. So if you don't have a personal, systemic way to take that new input in, rapidly decide what it means to you, park that in some inventory of all the meaningful things that you've made commitments to and step back and see that gain, then you will be driven by the latest and loudest and not feel very comfortable about that. So it's a martial art to really learn how to deal with the speed that the technology has allowed potentially meaningful inputs to come into your world.
So how do you master, or how should one master new technologies or new services like Twitter and Facebook and the rest of the real-time social media revolution?
It's a real good question because the simple answer is just make sure you know where you're going in your life so you know how to then manage against that. How important is Twitter to you based upon what's important to you in life? And what's important could just be, how do you like to spend time and have fun? If people ask me and say, what is social media? If I I've tweeted several thousand, tweets, and I play. It's a fun medium to be able to express a lot of what I want to express that I consider useful or valuable to people. But I say, well, how valuable is a cocktail party? Because social media is nothing but a glorified version of a cocktail party. And so how important is that? Depends on how important a cocktail party is to you. You certainly wouldn't want to avoid your life and spend all your day in a cocktail party, but that might be exactly the place to sign a business deal. So when you think about that, that's the ultimate thing that people just have to say, well, how important is this? Is this something sort of turns me on? Is it fun to do? But a lot of these things, come on, Google Plus, and when the new things, when they show up, there's kind of the early adoption curve. It's all when the inner geek shows up on a rainy Saturday, oh, isn't this fun and isn't this cool? But then there'll be a plateau out. But then it'll tend to plateau out. Well, how important is this really to you? And as long as you're conscious about that, I'd say, what the heck, there are worse ways to waste time.
One of the most controversial aspects of your thinking, I know, is your rejection of the idea of the multitask. Why don't you believe that we can really multitask?
Well, this is just scientific data. You can't put concentrated, focused attention, like conscious attention, on more than one thing at a time. You just can't do it. You can't think of the number 3 and the number 2 at the same time. You can switch rapidly between the two. Multitasking is actually what happens when you drive home and you wonder who drove. You get home and go, who did this? Yes, there were lots of parts of you that were operating on automatic that you didn't have to be that conscious of that were happening simultaneously. But what really people are talking about when they say multitasking, I understand what people are getting at. It's called, I'm talking to you, and then this comes in, and then this people, and meanwhile this, and I got instant messaging on my screen, and my BlackBerry is going off, etc. Multitasking says, I'm now focused on you, now I need to focus on that, now I need to focus on that. That actually, there's nothing wrong with that, and that actually is pretty elegant if I have a placeholder for focusing here, so I can put a stop on that and then focus here. That's what martial artists do when they fight 4 people at once. They don't fight 4 people at once. It's that one, and then that one, and then that one. They just have placeholders. The problem is if I'm talking to you and then, I need to, and then I say some commitment there, and then I start to be over here, but my mind is still over there. That's when you're trying to multitask, but you can't do it, and that's what's creating a lot of stress. But if I'm able to put a placeholder for you, i.e. write down what we're talking about, I can switch over here. If there's something meaningful that I can't finish just in the moment, I'll put a placeholder for that. Everybody goes away. I've just taken a bunch of notes. I sit back, close the door, and then I can go through and process all of that. So you can get very good at rapidly multitasking out there. But it's tricky, because if you don't follow the methodology of making sure that you've captured stuff that is potentially meaningful in some place, as soon as you focus on the next thing, it's still there, but you forgot it consciously. Now it's pulling on you, you just don't know what the source of the stress is.